he would always tell me that, hey, make mistakes when you're younger. So when you're older, it's easier for you to deal with things. But when you're younger and you gain a lot of experience, that's why I opened my business as young as I am and decided I don't want to go to college, because I know that getting this experience right now is going to benefit me exponentially than opening a business when I'm 40 years old.
Kush, thanks so much for taking the time to be here and for all the support to the Moneymalistic show. How are you doing today?
Good, brother. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for asking. Let's get started. How old are you?
I'm 20 years old. I turned 21 in a couple of months.
Where are you from?
I'm from India and the state of Punjab.
Punjab, nice. So what do you do for a living?
So I'm currently a restaurant owner.
Great.
And, upcoming entrepreneur.
Nice. How long have you been a business owner or the restaurant owner for?
So I've been a restaurant owner for about 2 years now. I started the venture about 2.5 years ago. Took me about 6 to 8 months to put the whole thing together and do a soft opening, and then we went from there.
Nice. I think we're definitely going to be talking about your restaurant down the road. So
yeah, of course.
What social class were you growing up?
I would say I would be a higher social class. It's just because that's where my family comes from. Both of my parents were raised that way, and I was raised that way. I was, we had a pretty big house in India with a full staff. We had gardeners to, drivers to cooks to, assistants to, people who just took care of all your needs.
The whole thing.
And yeah, exactly, the whole package. And the crazy thing is, yeah, I say high class, but it's like in India, it's pretty cheap to have that. Like you can employ a person who would take care of all your needs, for 10, 15,000 rupees, and that's nothing. That's a couple $100. Like imagine that, like paying a couple $100 to somebody for the whole month, and they take care of everything, and they're happy to do it. That's good salary there.
Wow. That's insane.
So it's like, yeah, like you could pay a good cook that's been cooking for, let's say, 10 years at restaurants or whatever, 20,000 rupees, and that's about $300. And that's nothing, bro. $300 is nothing. You're spending that on dinner these days. So,
were there any challenges growing up as a high class?
I would say there were a decent amount of challenges, because it's hard to go around the city freely, because there's a lot of not threatening people, but there is a lot of people that might wish you harm, or people aren't that friendly to people who have money or stuff like that. So that's a thing that I have seen. But at the same time, you just deal with it and get used to those kind of things.
What do your family talk about money in general?
Not really. Well, we would not really talk about money. It was never a topic that really concerned my parents that much. So we would never really get into it. It was never a, conversation we were having at the dinner table. It was never that.
Do you recall your first interaction with money?
Yeah, I do. I think one of the things that really stuck with me was, I remember my grandmother gave me some money to go buy things from a shop with my attendant, when it would usually be my attendant who would go buy things for me. So I guess she also wanted to show me, because my grandmother married into my father's or my grandfather's family, and she comes from humble beginnings. Her family had money, but not like my grandfather had. So, she came from a lower, like I was saying, lower class, So when she always wanted us to be more responsible. And I remember she would encourage us, you should go shop for yourself, see how to buy things, because we had multiple people on hand to just go and, send them to go buy us groceries or whatever snacks you wanted, toys you wanted, So that I remember she telling me and giving me money to go get something for myself. And I was like, hey, this is very cool. I have, let's say, 100 rupees. And back then, when I was a kid, 100 rupees actually meant something. Now 100 rupees is like nothing, 100 rupees is about $1 in the States. So it's about $1.10. But I took that money and I went to a shop and I was like, hey, I can actually like buy like 2, 3 things with this, but I had to budget it. Like, oh, I can only buy 2 things or 3 things. Of course, I was a kid. I spent the whole thing. You never expect to give the money back.
Kush, what is the best financial advice you have ever received, and who gave you that advice?
I would say the best financial advice I've ever received was probably from my grandfather. He would tell me that one thing he always regretted is he never started investing early enough, because he saw a lot of his peers who were around his age and they were doing things, but he was just not doing anything. Because when your parents are very wealthy, you don't have an incentive to go do anything, especially when your parents are encouraging you to go do something. So he would always tell me that, hey, make mistakes when you're younger, so when you're older, it's easier for you to deal with things. But when you're younger and you gain a lot of experience, that's why I opened my business as young as I am and decided I don't want to go to college, because I know that getting this experience right now is going to benefit me exponentially than opening a business when I'm 40 years old. So I have this experience now, and let's say my business fails tomorrow, I have that experience now, so I can fall back on it. I'm like, hey, what did I do wrong? What went wrong? Basically what he would tell me is that do it young, so when you're older, you don't have to worry about anything and you have something set up for you.
On the other side of the spectrum, what is the worst financial advice you have ever received, and who gave you that advice?
The worst financial advice I've ever received, in my personal opinion, is a coworker of mine at a job that I had told me that, hey, you should, and he was much older. He was arguably my parents' age. He was around my parents' age. And he told me that you should start saving money. And then he told me that, oh yeah, I have this much money saved up in my savings account. And I thought that was, to me, that idea of saving money was stupid. But that's just my personal opinion, that I think your money should work for you. It should never be the opposite way. You should never work for your money. Your money should work for you. What I mean by that is investments. I know people who have big investments, when, capitalist firm that they put into, or let's say they bought a property, a rental property, or, some kind of business that can run itself, or they can hire people that will run them, and they are benefiting from that exponentially.
What is the best financial decision you have ever made?
I'm still 20, so I still have a long way to go, but it's probably opening my business. It was very tough in the first year, I would say, because we weren't really doing that good. We were, brand new businesses always take about a couple of years for them to properly be established.
How do you get started with that idea? Who told you about, like, hey, let's open a restaurant? Was that something that became naturally to you, given the fact that, as you mentioned, there's food in your country that you miss in a way?
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through the process.
So I've always been a foodie person. I've always liked trying out new foods, new restaurants, even with Indian restaurants. Like, if I ever go to a new city, I always go to some Indian restaurant, try it out, see what's working for them and see what doesn't. And I would just do that subconsciously. I would always judge when I go to these restaurants that, look at this place, great service. But everybody does that. Everybody has their own opinion about a place. That's why you have the best place or the worst place, and everybody levels every place that, hey, this place, great service, great food, great location, and I would go in and see what works for places, and this was back when I had my job. I ended up deciding to leave my job and pursue business, because I'm like, why am I working? I'd only worked at that job for over 6 months, and I learned everything I needed to from that job. As far as I was in customer service, customer service, and I learned everything I really needed to at that job. And I was like, I had no place to grow, and for me to grow in that location, it would take years, because a lot of these places, it's not a fast moving place. It's very slow moving, and you don't really decide your fate. Somebody else decides your fate. And I don't want to ever leave those decisions to somebody else. I always want to hold the power in my life that, hey, I decide what happens with what I do, you know? So I'm accountable for myself. That's why I took a page out of my parents' book and I was like, hey, they're business owners. My uncle, he already had a successful restaurant in town. And I decided, I'm like, hey, let me go work for him. Let me partner with him. I started working for him. I worked for him for a little bit, see how to do everything. And then he suggested, he's like, hey, you should also open your own location really soon. And then we got the ball rolling. I looked at a lot of ideas, what would work, because I didn't want to invest a lot of money into something that I'm new to, because you don't want to put your money in a place where you might not be able to properly succeed, If you're going to take a loss, take a smaller loss. That's why, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, but at the same time, smaller the risk, smaller the reward, So I ended up taking a risk, and then I was like, hey, let me open a business where I know for my first ever business at the age of, I was almost 19 then. And then I was like, hey, let me open a business where I know it's not going to be the biggest reward, but it's not the biggest risk either, but it was a risk I was willing to take, so I can gain experience. Your first step is always the hardest, but it gets easier as you go. So I ended up opening that business, got everything together, learned everything, how to get permits, how to get equipment, how to source things, where to get things from, how to deal with suppliers, how to deal with employees, how to basically manage everything. And then how to deal with customers, even get better at customer service. And from those experiences that I have earned till now, I could not put a price tag on those experiences because they are so valuable to me that I've gotten so much experience from doing what I did by myself because I had accountability to myself. There's no boss I had to say yes to, or it wasn't that I was doing a 9 to 5. I was there before it opened and I left after it closed. So I was there always.
What would you say that is the biggest challenge as a business owner? Starting up, what was like the most difficult thing that you had to encounter?
The biggest challenge when I started up was because I had gotten used to getting a paycheck and I wasn't getting a paycheck then. It wasn't that, hey, every second Friday you get money in your bank account, right? It wasn't like that. It was, and I would say in the first phase, it was very tough to be like, hey, I'm not bringing in any money for myself. So I had to rely on my parents to help me afford my expenses, And that was challenging, to say the least, because when you have to rely on other people first, I'm still pretty young, but at the same time, I want to make it on my own. But it's hard, but I'm very blessed and thankful that my parents were there to help me. And I personally think that's what parents are for, to be there to help you grow and do better in your life. That's why I'm always grateful to them. But in the beginning, I wasn't getting a paycheck. It wasn't like, oh, I worked 80 hours this week and then I made this much money. It was like I worked 80 hours a week and we are barely breaking even, or we only lost a certain amount of money this month, or we only lost this much money this month, or we broke even this month. That's a really hard reality to deal with for a lot of people. A lot of people that are coming from jobs, a lot of people are coming from, the
steady income.
Yeah, because in my language we call it Nakri Pesha, and Nakri Pesha means the working class. People who are coming from the working class and have never dealt with business ever, it's hard for them to realize that, hey, I'm not going to get a paycheck this month. I'm not making any money this month. I'm losing money. While you're working, it's kind of funny. You're working 80 plus hours a week and making nothing. You're actually losing money, and you have your expenses on top of that. So it's a very, very tough reality. But being a 19-year-old and going through that, I feel like that's made me such a stronger person and nudged me the right way. Because now I know, hey, it's okay. You can cut back on some expenses. You can focus on some other things and just focus on work. Just how can you make this place better? Because opening a brand new business that's not a franchise doesn't guarantee customers at all.
How much did it cost to create something like that?
So this is going to be kind of funny. When we first started out, I thought it was, it's going to be okay. Like I wasn't sure. I had never invested into a business. My parents had never invested into a restaurant. And we have relatives that have restaurants, but, it was very different. Prices fluctuated, especially during COVID. Things got very expensive. Metal prices went up, wood prices went up. Every day prices were changing, So I remember our budget being a little over 100 grand and going from that to probably when everything got put together in the end with seating, with everything, probably over 250.
Now, since your business has been open for 2 years, have you been able to make a profit, or you're still in that process of?
So profit is defined in a weird way. Of course, we're making money and there's profit and money coming in, but it's nothing I'm taking away. I guess I'm able to take a little bit away, but it's nothing crazy. I can't just, you have to pay taxes. There's a lot of other things that come up, unexpected expenses. So you need to have majority of that money still in the business. So let's say something breaks and you need to go spend $5,000 that day that you didn't know you had to spend. Now you have to go spend that, So having that money on hand does really help.
So you actually are pretty much reinvesting all of your revenue, all of your profit. But at the same time, your initial investment of $200,000, or $250,000, have you been able to get that back or not yet?
Yes, I have been able to get that back.
And in 2 years, that's really good.
Yeah, I have been able to get that back.
I think like a lot of people are going to be watching this video and they're going to be like, oh my God, like I'm also looking to open a restaurant. You already mentioned how much it really costs to open one. Would you feel comfortable talking about numbers when it comes to like how much you've been able to make with your business? Like someone getting started. Let's say that someone wants to open a pizza place or like a Mexican place or you name it. How much can they generate on a yearly basis?
On a yearly basis, at least for the first year, I would imagine they can make 6 figures to a level that they can pay themselves a decent amount of money. Depends how big their staff is, how big their operation is. If they're opening a huge restaurant, spending millions, it's a whole different arena. Now they're making 6 figures in a month, in the first year. But like if they're just opening like a small little place where the rent is really minimum, or let's say it's out of a food truck of some kind, they can do very well. I've seen food trucks. I have personally seen food trucks with the owner working there do 30, 40 grand a year. 30, 40 grand a month. On sales. And with food, the cost is very low. You understand? Like if you're working yourself, the main cost in restaurants is labor. And if you can cut that thing out, of course, there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling you're always going to hit. There's only so much you can do yourself. But at the same time, you can do till that ceiling. Let's say you can do 50 grand in sales with you and your wife or your son working with you, and it's very wholesome. I've seen some families work together and make a decent amount of money, So I've seen restaurants where it's like the dad's cooking in the back, the daughter is like the waitress, and like the mom is doing all the accounting and all the other stuff. And, it's very cool. Like
Full family restaurant.
Exactly. Full mom and pop family restaurant, not just in the name, but in the full sense of it. And I've really seen that and them doing very well for themselves. But at the same time, there's only a certain level you can really get to. After you can never exceed this. Imagine there's a barrier. You can never exceed that without stepping away from your, day-to-day jobs. Because if you don't step away from your day-to-day tasks, you can never make money. The only people that can really make, real good money are people who buy their time back by employing other people. That's when they can use their entrepreneurial spirit to open another place, to do something better, to look from an outsider's perspective and change things. Be a third person in the whole scenario of your business. What can I change? what can I do better?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the best financial decision you've ever made. I think it has taught you so much, throughout this 2 years. Now, on the other side of the coin, what is the worst financial decision you have ever made?
The worst financial decision I would consider that I've ever made was probably purchasing my vehicle.
Oh, you drive?
I drive an M5 competition.
Oh, nice.
It's a car I've always wanted for a long time. It's a car, I'm a big BMW enthusiast, and I always wanted that car. And now I have it, and it's very cool. But at the same time, the adult in me says that, hey, sell this thing, buy a Camry, I'll just go buy a cash down Camry for like 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever, right? But the passion in me for cars, because my first job was in the car industry and I'm really passionate with cars. So the passion in me says that do whatever it takes to have this car and buy 5 more. So it's a very, very tough battle you need to fight. But I'm not saying don't, chase your dreams and chase your passions and your goals, but it needs to be a level that, hey, let me get to here and then I can buy this, but then let me get here and then I can buy this. But don't buy this and then get here. Don't buy this and then get here, First get there and then be able to get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know. Like you're putting it as like, okay, get assets that generate money, and then with those assets that are generating you money, then you can go ahead and buy
the things that don't make you money.
We can go buy toys then.
Exactly. Like I've seen people waste money. Like it's not waste. A lot of people are passionate in different ways. Like there's a lot of women they want to buy purses and jewelry and stuff. I see no value in that. I see no value in buying purses or clothes, like expensive clothes or jewelry, because people are spending thousands of dollars on this. To me, a car is a bigger passion, but at the same time, everybody chases their own dream in their own way. So it is what it is. But my thing is that if I'm doing well, I would like to have something that I look forward to drive.
How would you describe your relationship with money? And are you comfortable with your current financial situation?
My relationship with money is a really complicated situation, I would say, because like you were saying, I'm not comfortable where I am right now because there's always room to grow. And me being the age I am, I have so much more to do and to grow. An entrepreneur should never be comfortable with where they are. They're an entrepreneur because they change things in their life, because they do better and they want to succeed, not stay where they are. And I feel like sometimes in life, when you get too comfortable, you end up, a lot of times, you trade a paycheck for your dreams. That, hey, somebody gives you a paycheck and they're like, hey, kill your dream in a way. And you're helping somebody else focus on their dream, And I've seen that happen a lot, and it happens all the time, but it's like, what I'm trying to say is, the day I started becoming comfortable, that's the day I stopped trying, And that's with everything, even with my physical goals right now and losing weight and, becoming a healthier person, the day I started becoming comfortable with the way I look and the way I am, that's the day you stop trying, It happens for everybody. It's the same for everybody, but you only try when you're uncomfortable with your situation, when you want to do better. I'm not saying that I'm in a bad situation in life, but I'm saying that I can always be better and I can always do more.
If you could go back in time and change one financial decision, which would it be and why?
I wish 10 years ago, I would have asked my parents to invest more. I wish, because I had so much time on hand, because a 10-year-old isn't really doing much, And I'm not saying everybody should accept a 10-year-old to do this, but I wish I would have looked more into the markets, looked more and did more research.
Alrighty, we're going to go over our first section called Would You Rather. So I'm going to give you this container. You're going to go ahead and pull out 5 pieces of paper, one at a time. Once you're done showing it to the camera or just showing it to me of what number you got, just toss it to the side whenever you're ready.
Number 6.
Would you rather get $1 million right now or get $100,000 a year for 10 years?
I would probably get $1 million right now. It's probably worth more with inflation,
All right, let's go with the second one.
It's 4.
Would you rather have a job you hate with a really high salary or have a job you love with a below minimum wage salary?
I would rather get a job that I'm making a lot of money, but I hate that job. It's just because it gives you such a life experience that, hey, you need to learn how to do things that you don't want to do. You need to learn how to work with people you don't want to work with. Because if you never do that, you're never gonna get the experience to deal with people you don't want to deal with. Because in life, you have to deal with a lot of things that are forced on you, but you don't want to do. Does that make sense? It's like it's gonna give you such a experience that, hey, you can prove to yourself that I can do anything. You know, if you can do a job that you hate, you can do basically anything. You know.
Let's go with number 3.
25.
Would you rather loan money to your parents but not get it back, or loan the money to a stranger and get your money back times 2?
I would for sure loan money to my parents and not get it back. You know, because I would not care if my parents never returned that money to me.
All right, let's go with the 4th one.
So 11.
Would you rather go back in time to fix your biggest financial mistake or be able to see into the future how everything turned out in the end?
I think for sure the future thing, you know, because just knowing what's going to come up is going to help you so much more.
Let's go with the last one.
21.
Would you rather receive your whole pay for the year all at once or get paid bi-weekly?
Probably bi-weekly.
Yeah.
You know, so if something coming in all the time, it's just like, if you get it once a year, you know, I know we didn't really go over this, but I have some weird spending habits that I know I will blow through that in the first month and not really care about it. That's my personality. You know, I'm more of a work hard, play hard kind of guy. So I know if I have it sitting around, I'm not saying I'll be tempted to, but it's going to be a thing that's like, oh, why don't I just blow through it, you know?
All right, let's go over our second section called What Do You Think? Same concept, but this one is about opinions and thoughts on money. So whenever you're ready.
16.
Kush, what do you think? What is the best way to invest money?
I would recommend the best way a person can really invest money is a process they trust. As, let's say, a person they trust. You know, a person that they have trust in, that they know that can really do something with that.
Let's go with the second one.
Number 10.
Should we talk about how much money we make?
I think if you want, but the thing is, depends who you're talking with. You know, if you're talking with somebody you know will not be comfortable with you telling them how much you make or how, you know, how much or how little, or, you know, because some people are just not capable of talking about money. They're just not, they're not at that level in their life that they can sit with somebody and be like, hey, this is how much I make, and this is, you know, there's a lot of people, they have problems, and, you know, they don't like people telling them how much they make. They think somebody's, you know, being, you know, show off or whatever you want to call it, or, you know, talking about your financial troubles. But there should be always, you know, I feel like you can tell the trusted people in your life that, hey, this is what I'm going through. Either I have a lot of debt or I make a lot of money, you know? But some people knowing what you do, how you do it is always good, but you have to nitpick who that person is. You cannot just go around and be like, oh, look, you know, like you cannot be like a rapper or something. Or, oh, look, this is what I'm doing, you know?
Definitely. All right, let's go with the third one.
15.
What is a good age for kids to learn about money?
I think pretty young. I think they should for sure start, you know, teaching kids about money when they're young, as like middle school. You know, there should be courses that kids should be able to take that can really, really change their perspective on how to manage and how to work with their money.
Let's go with the fourth one.
19.
What percentage of our check should we put into a savings every month? That's a perfect question for you.
I think personally, I would put 0% of my check into my savings, because I technically don't have a safe savings. You know, I would just reinvest it into something, or, you know, being the person I am, I might just go blow it on something. You know.
All right. What the last one?
28.
What are some pros and cons about reading financial literacy books?
I think the pros of reading a lot of financial literacy books is you get a lot of knowledge. You know, you get to know things you for sure didn't know before. But I think one of the cons that I do sometimes think about is that when you have too much knowledge coming in, you get very undecisive and you don't know what to do.
Kush, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really, man, but the last thing I would want to say is, I wish everybody well. Hopefully, whatever I said would help them. And if I said something that might have offended anybody, I apologize, but hopefully it finds everybody well and they can take the smallest thing away from it and implement it into their own life. And hopefully it helps them grow as a person. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming.
Happy. Appreciate it.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please support the channel by subscribing, commenting, and liking the video. The question of the day is the following. Let me know your opinions, thoughts, comments, and constructive criticism in the comment section, and I will see you guys on the next video.